I'm going to start with Jesse Norman. Responsible capitalism.
Oh, well, thank you very much indeed, Sian, and thank you all very much indeed for coming along. I did an event earlier on today for The Spectator, where when you arrived, you were given a gin and tonic, which I thought was an interesting approach. I must say I greatly enjoy the excellent food that Onward provided. I take my hat off to them.
But there's no G&Ts, but
there was
bacon butties.
Well, it has the added advantage that was halfway through the talk, I saw people running out to get some more gin and tonic. I thought, oh geez, it's not going down very well if they're really refueling heavily at this point in the proceedings. Look, the question of the functioning of capitalism and the deeper question of the legitimacy of capitalism is an absolutely central one. It actually has been for many years, but it's been made particularly so since the 2008 crash, I need to tell you, and that is an experience which has greatly scarred and changed our political debate. So in this country, as a result of that, there has been a tremendous deepening of the tension between the view that on the one hand, there's no really obvious alternative to capitalism, and yet at the same time are worried that the capitalism we had was deepening inequality, as Sian has mentioned. So that's the dilemma that policymakers have to deal with. Let me sharpen the dilemma by giving you a fact. The fact is that we went from a situation in which the country had a target of debt to GDP of less than 40%, to a situation where we had debt to GDP of 85 to 90%. Okay, now, if that's what one financial crash can do for you, just imagine what two can do for you, ladies and gentlemen. So that was the birthplace of some very funky monetary theory, which no one had quite anticipated. We're going to end up with some very funky fiscal theory next time around if we're not careful. So we really do need to think about that, and one of the ways in which that's reflected now is risk premiums that are attached by international investors to investing in the UK. It's a heavily financialised economy. So our style of capitalism in the UK historically has been a rather financialised kind, and that has all kinds of effects. So it has an effect on the housing market, where we are obsessive about housing ownership and mortgages, and makes us extremely sensitive to changes in mortgage rates. It has an effect on talent, sucks talent away from what you might call engineering, business in a more general sense, and until relatively recently, entrepreneurship. And so I just want to leave you with 2 or 3 responses to the question of how we can restore a fully responsible capitalism. So the first is that we have to get smarter about markets and corporates as the 2 principal components. Markets come in very many different shapes and sizes, and to regard them as all functioning the same way is just an elementary mistake. So financial markets function differently from product markets, haircuts and hamburger markets. Those function in turn differently from the property markets. Those function in turn differently from labour markets. So there is no one-size-fits-all approach to regulation for all of these markets, the first one. The second is, the state is an inevitable counterpart to markets, and we should welcome that, because the stronger the markets as enabled by the state, the more effective and efficient they can be. Capitalism is an evolving process whereby different forms of property get designated and protected and can then be used for purposes of creating wealth. I'll give you an example. The Space Act. The Space Act, which I was responsible for introducing to the House of Commons, is a piece of legislation which allows us to designate a piece of silicon and metal operating in an orbit around the Earth, and use it for commercial purposes. That didn't exist before a piece of legislation, and there are many other cases of markets which get enabled by customary usage in the first place and then by statute and are secured by law. It's that creation of private property that powers the evolution of capitalism. Now, capitalism, when it's out of control, can lead to, or inadequately understood or controlled, can lead to enormous inequality. We've seen that in some crony capitalist countries. Go to, Pakistan, for example, khaki capitalism. Go to Bolivia, narco-capitalism. Go to, Russia, oligarch capitalism. There are different varieties there. What we need to do is to recognise those varieties and be more intelligent in how we think about them. In the UK, we have actually inequality's gone down since the crash. Gini coefficient has got less because, broadly speaking, people are better on benefits than they were before. But there is a concern about in-country inequality. Global inequality has gone down significantly as a result of the open markets the last few generations, last few decades, and the rise of China. That's been a fantastic thing. Very quickly, you can make the same point about the components of capitalism. So one shouldn't just think of it as being about companies, one should think of it as being a heterogeneous group of economic institutions, partnerships, sole proprietorships, co-ops, mutuals, employee-owned organizations. All of those have their part to play in capitalism, and we don't want to analogize them all to each other. That's another major mistake. They can go wrong. There can be crony capitalism. I hope we'll discuss that. But when they go well, it's the greatest force of wealth creation and economic advantage ever created. Let me leave it there.
Thank you very much.